Hello and welcome to the Never Done That Before channel. This is Jacqueline. And speaking of never done that before, have you ever wanted to spend a week in New York City just seeing a different Broadway show every day? How about seeing the Statue of Liberty? Well, these were two things on my Never Done That Before list that I wanted to accomplish, and I was recently able to do so. So if you want to see how I did it, stay tuned for more. Although I would have loved to stay in the theater district like we did years ago, I found the price of even the most modest of hotels had really gone up. So we ended up across the river in downtown Newark, New Jersey, at the Robert Treat Hotel. We highly recommend it since not only was the price good, but the staff were super friendly and the hotel provided a shuttle to both the airport and the train station. It was actually walking distance to the Penn Station in Newark, so we got really good at taking the New Jersey Transit and the subway. To save money on show tickets, we opted to not buy Broadway tickets ahead of time, but to rely instead of the TKTS booth and the lottery. We also knew that as a last resort we could buy tickets at each individual theater box office, but we ended up not using that option. In fact, the lottery didn't help us much either. Even though you can find tickets for as low as $45 each, we were not very lucky in terms of winning any of the tickets we really wanted. But going to the TKTS booth became our little morning routine every day. Through the TKTS booth you can get tickets the day off, up to 50% off, and you can also buy matinee tickets for the next day. The nice thing about it is that after you do the line the first time, you don't have to do it again, as they have a fast pass line, and when you show your past tickets, as long as they are within the last 7 days, you can move to the front of the line, which worked really well for us. After we secured our tickets, we went on to the Museum of Broadway, which I had heard recently opened. It is described as an interactive and experiential museum that celebrates Broadway's rich history. It is right in the middle of the theater district, of course, so it was very easy to get to. The museum was not crowded at all, and we got to enjoy the exhibits and take our time walking through them. It is lined up as a timeline with memorabilia from several key Broadway shows laid out in chronological order. As you walk the timeline, you'll come upon exhibits dedicated to groundbreaking moments in Broadway's history, the moments that pushed creative boundaries, challenged social norms, and paved the way for those who would follow.
I hope I get it, girls. Okay.
After the museum, we did a bit of walking around and came across this fun bar called Lily's Victorian Establishment that takes Halloween really to the next level. We took a peek inside and it's even more amazingly decorated. Apparently they decorate for each season. They used a professional decorator, as their name was on the window, which seemed very obvious that it was very well done. So many are dying to get in there. We continued walking around and bumped into what we remember is the little historic hotel we stayed at years ago in the theater district, the Mayfair Hotel. We remember it very distinctly because it was right next to where they were playing Book of Mormon, which was the hottest ticket in town at the time and very hard to get tickets for. And it is still playing there. We finally got to our first show of the week, Back to the Future, the musical. The proscenium and surrounding balconies were decorated with circuit boards that would light up and make all kinds of fun sounds. I thought the show was very fun, especially in terms of the special effects. The music though was not that memorable, but it was still fun to see such a well-loved story. The next day we were back to Times Square to catch our matinee show as well as get tickets for that evening. We got to see the Naked Cowboy in Times Square too. Our matinee show was Some Like It Hot, which I was very excited to see. If you don't know anything about it, it is based on the movie of the same name with Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon, and Tony Curtis, about two musicians that witness a murder and decide to hide by dressing as women and playing in an all-girls band. If you like old-fashioned musicals, this one has everything you would ever want. Big dance numbers, great songs, and even tap dancing. And the scene with the doors, oh my god, amazing. It was our favorite show of the whole week. Our evening show was Harmony, a new musical written by Barry Manilow. I was very excited to see it as I am a fan of Barry Manilow, and I think he's a great writer. It is based on the true story of the comedian harmonist, six talented young men who came together in 1920s Germany and took the world by storm with their signature blend of sophisticated close harmonies and comedic antics. The acting was great, the singing was great. Unfortunately, my high expectations were not quite fulfilled. We didn't find the music particularly compelling and the comedy was a bit too old-fashioned for us. So it was just okay for us. The next day, we decided to embark on a walking tour of New York. I found this 2-hour tour through Get Your Guide called Soho, Little Italy and Chinatown. And we went ahead and met up with our tour guide and started our tour at the FIDI, the financial district, right at the New York City Hall.
Do whatever you want in the interior, but in this case it was landmark inside and out. So they did a beautiful job with the wrought iron. And this.
After City Hall, we passed by quickly through Mulberry Street, which is the main street in Chinatown. Here we got to sample some $5 dumplings our tour guide knew just where to get. In an alley, of course. Finally, we made it to Little Italy, which I was very excited to see. We were told though that it's not so authentic anymore as a lot of the families that used to live here have moved out. We stopped at Ferrara Bakery, one of the few places that's still around, that's been around since 1892, and we got to sample some of their chocolate-covered cannolis. After Little Italy, we ended up in Soho, which we learned was a fancy neighborhood with high-end shopping stores. We also learned about the famous cast iron buildings that are prevalent in this area. After the tour was over, we were able to find a nice deli for lunch called Manja. After our tour, we took the subway uptown and ended up at 30 Rockefeller Center and the NBC studios, so we decided to explore it a bit. While we were there at the NBC store, we were asked if we wanted to be on standby for the Kelly Clarkson show. We said sure, but ended up just wasting our time as ultimately we were not selected. We went up to Times Square and we ended up at Junior's for dinner. We didn't have the cheesecake, which they're famous for, but we really enjoyed our food nonetheless, and the service was great. For this evening, we opted to go off-Broadway to a really cute and funny play called The Play That Goes Wrong, where, as the title suggests, everything goes totally wrong, including the set, which literally falls to pieces. It was one of our favorites as well. Finally, our much anticipated trip to the Statue of Liberty. I had always wanted to see it up close, and although I was unable to get tickets to go all the way to the crown, we got pedestal tickets. So here we are on the ferry on our way to Liberty Island.
Human justice and equality guaranteed by the Constitution, but only a minority of Americans are allowed to vote. In the New York Harbor, she quickly becomes an icon for America and begins to gather layers of meaning as the United States rises to power and prominence in the world. Her light inspires hope in the hearts of millions of immigrants from everywhere on earth. She sees American troops off to war and welcomes them home. The ideals for which she stands resonate far beyond this harbor. She becomes an icon for something far beyond America. She stands for the ageless human yearning to live free. She stands for the belief that we are all born with the right to express the impulse of a human heart. She stands for the freedoms of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and for the laws that guarantee those freedoms for all. That is the hope that speaks to the ages. That is liberty enlightening the world.
After seeing Liberty Island and the Statue of Liberty, we wanted to take the ferry and continue on to Ellis Island to check out the Museum of Immigration, which was really interesting. The museum tour includes an audio-guided tour, which includes 3 different tours you can go on. The main one is the immigrant experience, where you get to go room by room, following in the immigrants' footsteps and hearing the entire process from beginning to end of what each immigrant had to go through after arriving at Ellis Island. The next day we were back at Times Square and the TKTS booth. The area was even more packed than normal, as they had this exhibit for Dia de los Muertos called Valle de las Catrinas, as well as a Diwali festival nearby. We ended up deciding on seeing the Neil Diamond show, A Beautiful Noise, which ended up being really good. Finally, our last day in New York was the first day we got bad weather. The weather had been nearly perfect, but on our last day, it rained a lot and it was a bit colder. But we shouldered on with umbrellas on hand. We took the subway to the Chelsea Market, where we found a nice Thai place for lunch, and then rushed back to Times Square to check out our last show, Gutenberg the Musical. I was excited to see both Josh Gad and Andrew Rannell, but the show itself sadly was just okay for me, and my husband hated it. So there you go, can't win them all. So there you go, I hope you enjoyed a little Broadway trip as we venture to try something we had never done before. So go on, try something new, I dare you. Happy travels!